Are we allowed to be on here now, Sean?
Yes, I think that we are live. Good evening, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the live Q&A for the last days of capitalism at the 29th Annual Woods Hole Film Festival. This year, the festival runs through midnight on Monday, August 3rd. My name is Sean Volk, and I'm an associate programmer at large for the festival. I'm moderating tonight's discussion from my apartment in Fargo, North Dakota. Before we begin, I'd like to thank you and all of our supporters and our sponsors for coming out for the festival. This festival is made possible by the assistance and support of many people, and we hope that we'll be able to continue to count on you going forward as we develop the virtual screening platform. Please note, all films are eligible to receive both an audience and jury award. You can vote for the audience awards for feature films in the screening platform. On the home image of each film, you'll see 5 stars next to the Watch Later box. That's where you vote. 1 is the lowest, 5 is the highest. We'll send pass and ticket holders further information about how to vote for short films very soon. During today's Q&A, which will last for about 45 minutes, I'll be speaking with the team from the last days of capitalism for a bit, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. Q&As are part of what make the festival experience so special, allowing audience members to connect directly with filmmakers. I'm really looking forward to your questions and the exciting directions in which they take our conversation. To participate, please write your questions in the Q&A window, which is on the panel at the bottom of the Zoom screen. I'll pass the question along for a response from the cast and crew. Please mute your audio, enjoy, and thank you for being with us today. I'm so excited to speak with the team from the last days of capitalism. The film is an intimate and frank study of power, sex, and identity, set in an opulent Las Vegas penthouse over the course of one weekend. This riveting character study uses the story of 2 characters from very different sets of experiences to craft a striking critique of greed and class in modern America. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the filmmaking team behind the last days of capitalism. Today, I'm joined by writer-director Adam Mervis. Hi, Adam, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having
me. Yeah, thank you for coming. Where are you calling in from today, Adam?
I'm from sunny Los Angeles.
Oh my goodness, well, thank you for joining us. It's quite a bit earlier there, so we appreciate you coming out. Yeah. I'm also joined by producer Mike Stolaroff. Hi, Mark, how are you?
Good, how's it going?
Good, good. Where are you calling in from today?
I think we're all in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I'm in Hollywood, he's in Silver Lake.
All right. And then actors, we have Mike Faiola. Hi, Mike, how are you?
Hi, Sean. Happy to be here. I'm doing pretty well, all things considered.
Very good.
I'm also in Los Angeles, but since we're being very specific, I'm downtown LA right now.
All right, perfect. I was going to say we don't have to do cross sections, cross streets, so I appreciate that very much. and then last, Sarah Harper. Hello, Sarah. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good.
I'm representing the North. I'm in the Valley of Los Angeles.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you all so very much for joining us. I'm really excited to talk about the film, and as I said earlier, for those of you who are watching, please make sure you use the Q&A feature to ask questions as they come up, and I'll pass them along to the team. So Adam, let's start with you. I'd love to hear, where did the idea for the film come from, and how did you decide this was a story you wanted to bring to the screen?
It was originally a play. I was living in New York, doing some theater in New York, and I guess I had the theater gears going, and I had actually had, this is a dangerous sentence to say, but I had an experience in Las Vegas where I met, let's say I met Sarah's character. I did not intimately meet her, but she was an interesting character in a casino at a moment in time, and I went home, and I think with my plays, normally 2 people start talking, and I sat down and wrote what I think now is the 2nd or 3rd scene, and this was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I think even we had a different president at the time, but the inequality and everything that was going on, especially living in New York, was so striking that it just seemed like I kind of wanted to talk about that, but I also wanted to talk about it in a real way from two people, and as it kind of sat in my drawer for a while, the play, a good friend of mine, Kenny Harrison, who can be here tonight, said, why don't we make this thing as a movie? And we started to kind of think in that way. And over the course, I think we got really serious over the course of about 2 years of making it a film.
All right. And Mark, how did you get involved with this?
So Adam and I have a mutual friend named Tom Provost, who is, an old friend of mine. And Tom knows my background, which is basically micro-budget filmmaking. I've been making micro-budget films for 20-something years, and I teach micro-budget filmmaking, something I created called No Budget Film School, which I've been doing for like 15 years. And so I guess at some point, Adam had told Tom what he was trying to do, and then he wanted to make this movie, and it was going to be 2 characters, 1 location, and he basically had the money more or less to make it. It wasn't a lot of money, and probably Tom said something like, "Oh, you should talk to Mark, as he knows a lot about making films like that are really small." And we'd actually probably met before, maybe at one of Abe's parties or something. I think Adam and I had met, but I didn't really know Adam. And so Adam sent me the script. I read it. I really liked the script. We had lunch and we just dove in and we're like, let's make this. And so it was for me, it was a really great opportunity because I had just gotten off of making Driver X, which, Sean, you're familiar with, which played at the Woods Hole Film Festival a couple of years ago. And it was like a grueling experience of 4 or 5 years and putting in a lot of my own money and being the only producer in a very complicated project. And this was simpler. There was another producer. There was money already. It was like a 10-day shoot. It was like a breeze. And it was nice to be able to come back and produce, be a part of a production that didn't, kill me. So,
Okay.
Although I don't know, working with Sarah's, let me tell you,
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, how did you become connected with the film? How did you find your way to the role?
I submitted to it on Actors Access. It caught my eye immediately. It seemed like an intriguing plot and character. And then I auditioned, and then I got a call back, and then I was told I got the part, and it was exciting, and that's how I got connected. And Adam and I used to live in New York as well, so the callback, whenever Adam became part of the audition process, we had a New York theater connection. That was nice. Yeah.
All right. And then how about with you, Mike? How did you kind of find your way to the project?
Well, Adam and Mark were unaware of my offer-only status in Hollywood, and so I was forced to jump through the traditional audition loops. And I got an audition in my email box, and I saw that it was only a 2-character piece, and that sounded great. And so I went and auditioned, and found that the audition format was a bit more thorough than your usual auditions, just because these scenes are a little bit lengthier than your traditional film scenes. They're more like theater scenes. And so we really got into it, and you actually got to work in the auditions and leave a little piece of yourself in the room. And that was really exciting. And Adam seemed really committed to, the actor's experience being rich and full, and was giving our voices their due attention. And so it was a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. I should say, when we were originally talking, Adam and I, and this is something that Tom had said, "Oh, Adam's an actor and he wants to play that part, and you might talk him out of doing that because it's going to be so hard for him to write and direct and produce." And I didn't feel like I needed to talk him out of it. I didn't think it was a horrible idea, but it is a lot. And so we were just going to read for women for the female role, and then we're like, well, we're doing this casting. Why don't we look at some guys and see if anybody's really good? And Mike was terrific, but just to make sure, Adam also read with the group of actresses that we'd had call back. And but Mike was the choice, and I think Adam, you'd probably agree that was probably, do you feel like that was the way to go, the right way to go? Now I'm moderating. Do you feel like that was the way to go?
It was definitely, it was embarrassing for me to have to act against Mike. You know, you get a guy like Mike kind of doing his thing, and then I have to go, and it became very clear very quickly who should be the actor and who should just be the playwright.
And he was also more off book than you, which was weird because you wrote the script, but whatever.
Yeah. Like I said, it was embarrassing, so I just, you know, I blocked that, but thank you, Mark, for that.
Yeah, that's very flattering. That was actually my strategy going into the audition, because it was so dialogue heavy. I knew that most of the competition would be really grappling with, you know, the lengthy scenes and the amount of words per page. And so, yeah, I was really diligent about learning Adam's words, which were crafted in such an organic way as that they just seeped into your soul, and it required very little memorization.
Yeah, I mean, when you get an actor, both like Mike and Sarah, who are so generous and dynamic in the way they work, it's really, the words just sort of here, and there you go.
No, it was a great script, and it really was honestly not too hard to memorize. I also didn't have as much of the dialogue as Mike's character, but it's written really well. So there's like an ease to memorization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mike and Sarah, I'm wondering, could you both talk a little bit about what was your experience like working on a film where it's just the two of you, where you're the only two kind of characters and the two actors there? What was that like?
It's about fucking time. Yeah, it was nice to be a part of something there was, you know, that much focus on me. No, I'm kidding. First and foremost, you wanted to be paired up with somebody that you trusted and admired, and who was going to push you and challenge you. And so that was really the case with Sarah. So it was a really lovely workshop for about 10 days on set, working with another actor and exploring these scenes with her and with Adam. And we were sort of finding it more and more nuanced each take. And so it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Not a lot of sitting around and doing our hair, you know. It was mostly on set and grinding it out all day, which is really what you're there to do. You didn't have to twiddle your thumbs for, 6 hours while they were setting up a shot. So.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but I mean, I kind of lucked out. I think Mike and I had a really ease of working together. We had an easy time working together, and I think we had a good chemistry and trust, and I mean, he's a great actor, so it made me look good.
Well, did the two of you have a lot of time to rehearse before, or was it kind of a condensed schedule?
I think
the schedule was pretty condensed.
Yeah, I think we would block scenes, and then Adam would pull us aside, and we'd talk it through, and then I think we would just go, if my memory serves me correctly.
Okay.
I think
y'all did so much work in the audition. Y'all did 2 or 3 big long scenes.
Oh yeah.
That was almost like a rehearsal. I remember the cocaine scene, which Mike did so well. It was, for whatever reasons, I don't know, but no, but it was just like that. Y'all did that whole scene, and we did it more than once, if I remember. It was, so y'all had some work just there,
That callback was the longest I'd ever been in a room before. And my friend was visiting, and she was in my car. I was like, oh, I have this callback. I'm just going to be in and out. It'll take 10, 15 minutes max. An hour goes by. She's been in this car. I didn't leave the keys with her. She's sweating. She's like, never again. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering, can you talk a little bit about where you filmed this? Because like you've all kind of alluded to, being that there's only one setting, for the entirety of the film, I'd love to hear a little bit about, the space and how long you were there. How long did you have kind of to shoot?
Mark could probably speak the best. I think it was a 10-day shoot. it was a penthouse. I think we have to say undisclosed penthouse, but it
was in Las Vegas, though. I mean, we
Yeah.
could have chosen to cheat it and shoot in Los Angeles and not see out the window and do all that. And Adam kind of had it before I even came on. I think Adam already had the idea that we would drive to Vegas and had picked out a couple of ideas, and we looked at some stuff online and chose the place that we chose. Which was for this budget was a big chunk of the budget was to pay for that space. And then, but it was very short amount of time. And then the other trick of it was, we didn't really tell them we were making a movie up there. So we had to get all our gear and stuff up, which we just did right in front of them. We would just like walk with, camera gear and get on the elevator and go up. But it's Vegas. So I think people just, they're so used to seeing weird things go up that elevator that I don't think no one ever said a word to us. And so, once we got all the gear up, it literally took us like a couple of days. We just kind of brought gear up as we needed. And then we were holed up. It was a 2-bedroom place where you could have like 1 bedroom, one completely separate suite where you had stuff, equipment and stuff. And then which we shot in both sides, but mostly we shot in the other side. And then the actors stayed in the same complex. And then we put the crew up. We had a tiny crew. They were all in a house that we got on Airbnb, and it worked out really well. We borrowed a Suburban to drive all the gear up to from Los Angeles. And, the key was not getting caught, and we didn't get caught. So.
Awesome. So Adam, could you talk a little bit about, within the script itself? I think it's so interesting that it is this kind of very specific story between two characters, but the thematic concerns, like you acknowledged already about inequality and greed and class, they're so kind of resonant and universal. Could you talk a little bit about how did you try and balance, while you were writing this, kind of very intimate drama, also building in so many of those big themes in such a kind of intentional way?
Yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, they are universal. I think it's always a concern. You're always trying to balance, especially when I'm converting. This is now the third play I've converted into a film. And I think on stage, you're allowed a little bit more of a soliloquy, if that makes sense, about what exactly is happening. And the audience will, in some ways, has come to be told kind of what some of the themes are and to be challenged on those themes. In a film, in a weird way, the more you take away, the better it is. And the more I feel that you can make the audience lean in and sort of go, wait, what's happening? Who's who? What's what? What is he trying to say? What does she believe? What does he believe? I think it's more interesting. I had just come off a big studio movie that I was lucky enough to make, but my script became like so down the middle and watered down that that's the worst version of what could happen. And so I think with this, I kind of really wanted to not tell you anything or tell you as little as possible and let you decide who's who, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, Mike and Sarah, could you talk a little bit about, as actors, I think one of the things that I liked so much about the film is that as it progresses, we learn more and more of what we've been told and what we've been made to kind of assume isn't true. How was it for you as actors kind of having to navigate all these different layers of honesty and deception? Because even with some of the lies, there were little kernels of truth that if you're listening or paying attention, you can kind of find it. So how did you kind of navigate those waters?
Sarah, take it away.
I had a hard time. I think a lot of it, especially with my characters, you don't find out a lot until the end. And even still, I had to do a lot of work to just sort of figure out for myself what a lot of it meant, and for me, for her, and just make choices. And Adam and I would talk about them. But it was hard because it's, I mean, sometimes I would read the script and think she's telling the truth. Sometimes I'd read the script and say she's lying. I have no idea, and you want to, obviously you need to make those decisions before you start acting.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, that was challenging for me, but it was fun to navigate.
Cool.
So yeah, this may come off poorly, but so the way I navigated that was that I sort of disassociated from the text, and I really focused on what was happening in the moments in real time between Sarah and I, and allowing the text to deliver the information in the way, like Adam was just referring to, that the audience will kind of inflect it with its own meaning. And so I let the text do its job, and I sort of did my, job of just relating to the person in real time in front of me. And I think that sort of took care of those layers, because it's nearly impossible to act layers. You really have to focus on what's immediate, at least for me in my limited capacity. So yeah, that was sort of the way that I approached it.
Okay. Well, Adam, I'm very curious. The film is really frank, kind of as it discusses sex as a financial transaction between these characters in the film. And early on, there's a conversation that I thought was really striking about this idea of kind of like assessing and assigning value to things like paintings, and in this case, sex, and the idea of just a marketplace in general. Could you talk a little bit about how like these ideas of value and worth, how it kind of informed the characters?
I'll try. Don't hold me to this. I see the recording button in the corner, so we'll see. I'll make Sarah. Sarah's been reading Noam Chomsky, so I'm going to make her.
Thanks for outing me.
That scene in the beginning, which is pretty much the first real scene of the movie. I think there are two things happening simultaneously. One, you realize that Sarah's character is a lot smarter than you probably thought than she let on for a second. You understand there's a real tete-a-tete that's going to happen here. And that I guess it would be your first inclination that she might be capable of doing some other stuff, and there might be something else, some deeper thing we're going to unravel here. That's one.
Yeah.
Two, the value in the, and I guess I really would like to have Sarah say something, but that her character has, for her, the inequity of the world isn't like some woo-woo idea sitting in a penthouse looking down on people and going, oh, this inequity is horrible, we have to do something. For her, the inequity of the world is from the moment she wakes up, from the moment she goes to bed. And it's not an idea, it is life. And so that, that she's become a sex worker, maybe, we don't know. If you want to believe that, why wouldn't she then go, well, what's the value? What's the economics of it? Here I go, I don't know. Sarah, help me.
No, I think what you said is exactly true. It's like you can, when you're born into privilege, you're afforded the time to theorize, to come up with, Mike's character's got theories for everything, and he knows, or he has the way he thinks about the world, and you're allotted that time. But when you don't have that privilege, that financial privilege, you don't have the time to come up with the ways you think about the world. You have to just do it, or at least the way that you theorize your money situation, for example. So I think for her, what Mike's character introduces in the beginning is intriguing to her. Maybe she's done this before, maybe she hasn't, but she's certainly like catching on, and it's a means to an end.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I was struck by too, that I wanted to ask you all about, is I think power gets played around with a lot in the movie, of who's in control, who has the most power. And I think it kind of gets represented in different ways. Like there's the obvious, who has access to a penthouse, kind of like this. But then there's also the fantastic mean, like scene that's say something mean, where between these characters, like that dynamic of power and control, I think switches around sometimes. Could you guys talk a little bit about, as writer and as actors, how did you kind of navigate those shifting dynamics of who was in control, who had this power, and ultimately kind of what did that mean?
I mean, I certainly felt like she has a lot of emotional power. In a lot of the scenes, she just has the upper hand emotionally.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the internal power was Sarah's character, whereas mine was like off the rack store-bought power. And so you get to see both of those kind of go head to head. And obviously the internal power probably is more resonant and long-term.
But also, I mean, and then your character has the power of being, not being exactly who he says he is, because he lies too. But I think there is a little bit more of what you see is what you get with your character, and in that there's power.
Yeah, I think in the end there's money is power. Money really is the extension of power, and Mike's character was able to wield that versus Sarah's, like she said, emotional power. And not, I guess maybe people here have watched the film already, but the spoiler alert, but for the end where she is able to kind of take the upper hand and knock him out, there's a real power in that. I don't know,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's realistic. It's, I think if you're someone who's been struggling your whole life, you're not going to let one weekend of, maybe the beginnings of love trump the rest of your life being livable and okay and lifting out of where you were. But I think it's a powerful ending in that respect.
Mm-hmm. And I really like, kind of towards the end there in those final scenes, when you talk about there being a lot of power just kind of in the act of being able to create your own story versus having a story thrust upon you. Could you talk a little bit about maybe how did storytelling and creating these identities, how did that impact kind of as you were playing these characters? Starting off like, well, say I'm a painter, or, I'm studying this at school, and we kind of see these layers that get revealed ultimately not to be true, but engaging in this very powerful act.
Hold on, it's
Yeah.
I feel like this was what was hard for me as an actor with the script.
Mm-hmm.
But just so I can make sure I heard your question right.
Oh yeah. No, I guess kind of just to rephrase it, what was it like getting to kind of play around with being a storyteller, like in these roles where you're kind of creating and changing these identities as you go?
It was hard. I think it's like acting already is hard enough, as it is. And then I guess as what Mike was saying, at some point you have to dissociate from what you're saying and what you're feeling, and what's happening between you and the person, because it's like, I mean, you can say a lie, you can say a lie as if it's the truth, and I think I mean, it's fun to be an actor and to storytell, and then to do a storytelling within storytelling is.
Well, we're doing so much. We're all doing Sean, all of us here are doing a little bit of that right now.
Yeah.
And we do it all throughout our day-to-day lives. We're all like spinning tales about who we are and sort of managing other people's perceptions of us. This just happens to be way more on the surface and out there in front. And I just took the stories to, that my character was telling about himself to be the things that he wished he had the courage or the talent to actually access and be in his life. And so it was sort of like a vision of his imagined best self for me. And that's the way I made it feel logical and make sense for the character.
Cool. Well, I did want to take a moment to remind those who are watching the Q&A. If you'd like, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom to submit questions, and we still have time for a couple. So I did want to ask you, with working in this penthouse and this one space that you had, I think you do a really cool job of having, these tight close-ups of the actor speaking, but then also having these really beautiful wide shots that have the city in the background. Could you talk a little bit about kind of how you balance between using a close-up, but then also almost kind of bringing in Las Vegas as a character in some scenes, especially like when you're out on that balcony?
Sure. We had an amazing cinematographer in Bethany Murkowski. And, she came in and me and her really talked sometimes in a very loud tone of voice at each other about, this was a real challenge. In a way, it would have been easier to shoot in 75 locations, and then the visual dynamism of the cinema would have been easy in a way. And we really tried to balance one. I think I always love a film where you can sort of taste the movie and feel the movie in a way where where they are. And so that the visual geography is something that's alive and tangible, if that makes sense. Yeah. But, listen, at the end of the day, we have these two very handsome actors here and their faces and their performances. And that really was what was going to carry the movie. And so there would be slight conversations between me and Bethany about, I really want this shot to look beautiful, but at the end of the day, this is about performance. And I think a lot of times, having been an actor on film, a lot of times the actor can be secondary to the DP and the grip and the sound guy. Like, an actor is like a kino flow light where you're just like, hit that button over there, my friend, and like, let's go. And I think really in any movie, I don't care how big it is, performance is the only thing that can really save you at the end of the day. Maybe if you have like a 700-foot T-Rex also, I guess that saved you. But in this film, it was going to be all about performance. And, I said to Bethany, listen, I want this to be as beautiful as it can be, but 1A is going to be this performance and how we're going to have to get it. And so it was a constant negotiation between the two.
And also, I just, what you do when you're a producer and you're in this situation is you're spending all this money on this apartment and you're like, we're going to shoot the shit out of this place and we're going to get everything that looks really cool. We're going to make sure it's on screen to up the production value. So it's like stuff like there's a bathtub in the middle of the room. We've got to have a scene in that bathtub. It's like, make sure we're not missing that. And let's make sure we're on the balconies. Cause that's because the other place didn't have the balconies or whatever, this is where you don't want to, you're not trying to like, make the director or writer do something they don't want to do, but you're like, it'd be nice. We've got this stuff. Let's use it. But the other thing I would just say is someone like from a no budget filmmaking standpoint, something I say when I teach my class is like, you're never gonna have the money to do all the other stuff well. If you make a big movie with a lot of other stuff, So it's really better to have something like this where you can get all that stuff right pretty easily without a lot of funds, and then you can just focus on the things that matter, which is always going to be performances and writing and the directing. That's it. I mean, like you said, if you're in a Marvel movie, there's a lot of other stuff going on, and that's fine. But and maybe there's people who don't care about the performances in a movie like that. But in these kind of films, independent films, you can have it look great and have a great location, and if the acting sucks, you're done already. So it's just easier, to make a movie where that stuff you can pretty easily get that stuff in line, and then focus all your attention on what really matters. So.
Well, Adam, oh yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, go for it. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, that as an actor, it was, and Mike, you said this earlier, but sort of, it was a dream. We just the whole day was acting, and that's all it was, and it was great.
Very cool. Well, I wanted to ask you guys, so Adam and Mark, could you talk a little bit about the music that we hear in the film? Because I think it's cool that you use a few songs in there with the soundtrack, but then also the score at times. How did you kind of go about deciding what music to use?
We again had a great music supervisor, and Alexander Burke came in. He's a really talented musician. He's one of these guys who can play about 100 instruments, so he could do almost anything. We had this really great temp music in with me and the editor, David Al, but it was like Bob Dylan and Patti Smith. And so we were never going to be able to use that. But Alex did a really good job of going, well, here's this band that's sort of Patti Smith, and here's this band, and we just sort of trial and error. I must have listened to 200 indie bands, conservatively, and 1,000 songs to sort of find what was right. And I think balancing, we kind of came to the conclusion that the equation on this film was the music had to be an energy source in a way to really drive some of the narrative, because the film is very quiet and does want to be very nuanced and does want to be very subtle, but it allows you to then let the music be sort of wild and juxtapose that. And I think there was a version of this film where you just had like a classical, very light score underneath it, and I think I'm asleep in that version in like 15 minutes probably. So I really wanted the music to at least infuse it with some energy and not be afraid to tell you exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Or not be afraid to say, that's kind of completely the opposite of what's happening, but it's a cool song, so who cares?
Should also mention Alex. I'd worked with Alex before on a film I did a few years ago. He was a composer, so we brought him in as the composer, and then he did compose score. There's score in the movie, and he composed that. But then he does have so many relationships, so he was able to bring in all these friends and people that we were able to listen to songs. And then he's in a band called Magnolia Memoir, and his lead singer, his co-founder of that band, she's the one that does that French song in the opening titles, and then the America the Beautiful, whatever, at the end. And she's great. And so Mela, and so he worked really, really hard. We didn't have a ton of time. We barely could pay him, and he just, he was really great for us.
Yeah, I think that's right. And just, even in that cocaine scene, he brought in a tap dancer, and that's tap dance you hear behind a lot of that scene, which is, is incredible.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she tapped out the whole scene while we're there. He was just really kind
That's
of
so cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. See, look, you learn something every day.
I didn't know that.
If you ever watch the film, Sarah, you should look for that.
But no, I remember being surprised by the music. The music, I love the music when I heard it, and I had no idea that it was tap dancing.
Yeah.
Well, for the people that are at home, you know, that have watched the film and that kind of want to help you guys, support you guys, show you some love, what are some ways that they can do that? Can they find you on social media? Is there a newsletter or anything they should sign up for to get more information? Where should we direct people?
Yeah, there's two big things we would ask you guys to do. One is to to join our mailing list and kind of, you know, see what, if you want to know what independent filmmaking is like on the very edges of, right at the edge of independent filmmaking, you know, we will take you on that journey. There's a lot of it left to go. We're in this festival mode now, and this is an unusual time to be in festival mode with these virtual festivals. And then with distribution, it's all kind of up in the air. No one really knows exactly how this is all going to go down, but we will take you on that journey. We're going to be making some stuff that we'll make available to people who are on our mailing list, some fun things. And then the other thing that's big is to, you know, if you like the film, to go to IMDb and rate it. Because that's really helpful at this time while we're, you know, trying to get the film out there. And I can share those two links in the chat for that. So yeah, those are the two big things.
What's the
website? Adam may have a couple things he likes to say.
No, just what's the website for the mailing list, Mark? Just so you can tell.
It's Last Days of Capitalism. I'm going to shoot it over here right now. This is and basically you just go to the scroll down to the bottom of the website and you can sign up on the mailing list, and then and we're not going to overwhelm you with. You will definitely not get overwhelmed with emails, but I think it's fun to, you know, kind of see what happens to a film like this. And then if you want to rate the film, you can rate it here on IMDb. I just shot over that link as well. So, but that would be great.
If you want, Sarah.
Do what?
I said Sarah can rate the film after she watches it too.
I was literally just looking at our website. It looks very nice.
That's another thing. See, you can.
I shall.
You're on the website, Sarah.
I know. I just saw. It looks great.
Well, thank you all so much. I really love the film, and I'm glad that we all kind of got a chance to sit down and talk. And even though it would have been great to be in Woods Hole, I am excited that we were able to do this tonight virtually over Zoom. So Adam, Mark, Sarah, Mike, thank you. Thank you all so much for sharing the film with us. Thank you for being here. And just a couple of announcements before we close. The Woods Hole Film Festival runs until 11:59 p.m. on Monday, August 3rd. Remember, the film is eligible for an audience award, and you can vote using the stars next to the Watch Later box in the screening platform. Thank you once again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the Woods Hole Film Festival. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, everybody.
Love seeing you guys.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.